There's nothing quite like the holiday season. It's the best time of the year, but also far and away one of the most hectic. Simplify what you eat with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. My wife's a teacher, and Factor's had her covered for lunches at school. The jalapeno cheddar chicken is her favorite meal so far, while I've quickly taken to the creamy Parmesan chicken and green pepper and beef casserole as Ole Miss football rings in the postseason and it's prime recruiting season. We haven't skipped a beat at our house because we can rely on Factor. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. All you have to do is heat and enjoy. What are you waiting for? Head on over to factormeals.com/TOC50 and use our special Talk of Champions promo code TOC50 to get 50% off. That's right. Factormeals.com/TOC50 and promo code TOC50 to get 50% off. Continue to support your wellness goals while feeling your best this holiday season. Try Factor today, a proud sponsor of the Talk of Champions podcast network.
Talk of Champions, Short Sessions.
Long story short.
Welcome into another edition of Talk of Champions, Short Sessions. I'm your host, Zach Berry. Joining me on threes. Dude, at this point, you're like the portal czar. Just portal, NIL. My guy, Pete. Nakos is here. I told you before we hit record, I appreciate you carving out some time because, dude, you have been as busy as anyone this week. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Been a fun week. Monday felt like it was like a month long. In a fun way. But the mass exodus has been interesting to cover. And I feel like we're just getting started though too, right? It's like Thursday. 4 days into the 30-day window, we're just getting rolling here.
Some of the early, leaders in defection, I got A&M comes to mind. I mean, it seems like every 10 minutes, somebody from A&M is getting in the portal. Florida's up there. Who are some of the schools right now that are, suffering the most at the hands of the portal?
I think you named A&M. Florida has to be up there. Trevor Etienne just went in about under 30 minutes ago, I believe now. Ohio State has lost some guys. By no means would I say it's you're not seeing like Marvin Harrison going in. I think if anything, he'll go to the NFL draft or stay put. But my point is I don't think they've lost massive talent, but yeah, they've seen an exodus. USC has seen I don't want to say quite a few, but a few notable guys go in, most notably probably like Raleigh Brown. I think all the schools kind of stick out right now. If I'm missing one though, please let me know.
So you handled the business side of things as well with NIL for On3. I talked about this on our show earlier. Reputation and follow through with collectives, I think is going to start to play a huge role. There's been a lot of rumors, and there might be valid with all the guys getting in the portal, but A&M, they had a lot of juggling with their collectives. They had one at first, and then they dissolved it, and then had another. You would know better than me, but I think programs following through and actually paying, what's on the contract, what's in the agreement, that sort of thing. I feel like that's a no-brainer. Of course, that's going to be a big deal, but has that come up in your conversations?
Yeah, I think that's come up in a couple conversations. This is an Ole Miss podcast, so let's talk about Ole Miss real quick. Like what the Grove Collective has done in terms of raising funds, and then also all collectives are built different, obviously, but I think what Walker has done with the Grove Collective has been really impressive. And I don't know the last 12 to 15 months now. Lane hasn't lost a lot of guys, right? I mean, they've done a great job of retaining talent, and we'll see how that continues to play out. But yeah, I mean, you touched on it. There's definitely going to be some schools where athletes will leave because the money just hasn't come together the way they were promised. And then I guess the flip side too, which we'll hear about more in February, is there's going to be quite a few who go somewhere and then might just get half the amount of money that they were promised because they don't want to sign the contract before they commit, because then that is evidence of pay to play.
Yeah. So let's get into Ole Miss. I know you put up a piece with some intel earlier today. Some of the notable names that have gotten in the portal, Ole Miss is going to want him because they're some of the best players in the country. But a couple notable entries this week. A&M defensive lineman Walter Nolen. I know our very own Jerry Hamilton said yesterday over at Inside Texas that he thinks Ole Miss and Oregon are the two teams right now that are kind of in the forefront of that recruitment. I know Texas and Bo Davis are trying to get him to visit, but in terms of his value and what he would bring to a program, and then pair that with the intel, what have you heard around his recruitment and kind of what he's looking for?
Yeah, I was talking to Andy Staples about this earlier in the week, right? Like you look at the Michigan, the Alabama, the Washington, the Georgia almost every year. Like the reason why those programs are good is, yes, they have great skill talent, but what elevates the program from, I don't know, good to elite is in the trenches, and Walter Nolen can immediately improve a defensive line overnight and arguably probably make them like a top 30 defensive line. If they weren't already in that range. So yeah, the one thing I'd mention about Walter too is like it is wide open. I'm pretty sure I wrote that today, is like every top program in the country is going to want to get their shot of talking to Walter. You mentioned Texas, Ole Miss, Oregon, all of those come to mind too. I agree with Andy that I think Florida State has a legitimate shot, right? And the proof is in the pudding there with Jared Verse and what he's done on the edge. So yeah, I mean, I think I don't expect like a decision on Sunday. Like if he makes a visit this weekend, that's great. Like I haven't heard anything though that will lead to that being true just yet. But yeah, he's the number one ranked player in the portal right now at On3, and there's a reason behind that.
Another guy, Kiffin, traveled to Columbia, South Carolina. Was coy on Twitter, took a picture of a South Carolina golf cart. Then there was some South Carolina folks were having fun with some Ole Miss folks on Twitter back and forth, taking a picture of a car. Then another, Ole Miss staffer took a picture of the engine and was like, yeah, it looks good. So they were having fun, but Juice Wells got in the portal. Big hit for Shane Beamer in that program. He was all Gamecock on social media, and it was like him and his dad were assuring people like, hey, he's banged up, he's hurt, but we're locked in. Now he's in the portal. When he was healthy in 2022, he was certified dude. Big time playmaker. I mean, torched Tennessee in that blowout win. Had a good game against Clemson. He is going to be a guy that everybody wants. I know Texas and Tennessee really want him. But Ole Miss is obviously, kicking the proverbial tires there. I know there's some early names to look out for, but what about Juice?
Yeah, I think that Juice's recruitment is also like pretty wide open. Yeah, Lane went up there. I've heard from some sources in the last 24 hours that Ole Miss and Oregon have really come on strong. And then yeah, Tennessee and Texas are also in the mix. Texas losing some of their top guys probably to the draft and stuff, and then Tennessee is gonna, it appears like they're gonna have a first year starting quarterback with Joe Milton leaving, and yeah, of course they're gonna want to bring in a guy who can be the guy from day one and be wide receiver one, and it would make complete sense why Lane would want him in Oxford. And just talking to sources, I think the Lane and Juice really hit it off. Like I think that Juice likes the idea of playing in the Ole Miss offense. Jackson Dart coming back from another year, correct? If I'm not wrong. I mean, working with a quarterback of that stature, not having to help a quarterback, kind of like get used to the SEC, but playing for a guy who is probably going to have his best year yet with his third year in the SEC. I think that's all really attractive to him. So yeah, I put Texas as a favorite. I would think Ole Miss, though, is probably sitting at number 2 right now.
Yeah, considering that's a great point. Oregon's going to have a new quarterback. Tennessee, new quarterback. Texas and Ole Miss, you got Quinn Ewers and you got Jackson Dart. 2 guys that are probably, with Texas going to the SEC, we got to remember that. I mean, that's 2 of the top 5 signal callers in the conference. So, yeah to have a legitimate guy that's cemented as the starter, that's going to play a role for guys like him that are just plug and play, 1 year stopgap before going to the league.
The one thing I'll add on that too, and
Okay.
I mean, we're just gonna have to see how it plays out. But like, if Dylan Gabriel goes to Oregon, does that change the cards? Does Dylan try to recruit Juice? We don't know that yet, obviously, because Dylan isn't in Eugene yet. He hasn't committed, but that could definitely be something to watch in this.
Yeah, I know Justin Hopkins had spoken about, he's from Hawaii. He grew up idolizing Marcus Mariota, that program. It would make sense for him to get back closer to home. But yeah, like you said, SC also closer to home. They're going to need a new quarterback. So interesting fit there. I think he's more of a fit at Oregon. Just the type of quarterback. I don't know. For me, Lincoln Riley, I think a little more arm talent is needed in that offense, but that's just me. I'm not a scout or a coach, but
I keep hearing USC wants Malachi Nelson to be the guy. Now that they bring in Will Howard to be like, hey, here's your competition. Will is I mean, he's Will Howard. He's shown his potential and what he can do at Kansas State. Beat out Will and you can get the job. I think Dylan to Oregon is as close to a lock as it can be.
Yeah.
Sources have said, though, that Lincoln and USC have really tried to make a push.
Yeah. Lincoln Riley could be implementing a little bit of, a Lane Kiffin strategy there, what they did with Spencer Sanders, kind of just a little push for Dart with Malachi Nelson. Like, hey, we're going to bring this guy in just in case, but like, we want you to be our guy, like go prove it. So, last thing here, talking quarterbacks and like the dominoes, I know that you had a ton of intel on some of the guys. I mean, good Lord, the portal this year. Ooh, there's some good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
If you want, just kind of run through kind of the, take us through the gamut here of, who's out there and kind of where things are sitting right now.
Totally. So, I mean, let's start with Kyle McCord, right? Former 5-star recruit, 111-1 at Ohio State. He's going to have a lot of interest. He worked with Ryan Day this past year and Corey Dennis, like the last 3 years, actually. So I think he's really looking for a place that's only going to elevate the development, right? I don't know if playing for a program that has been in the cellar of their conference for a while is really what he's looking for. Now Marcus Satterfield did fly to Columbus yesterday. The Nebraska offense coordinator met with him. I have to imagine that really impressed the McCord camp that an offensive coordinator is willing to fly in and meet with him. So yeah, I think that's something to watch. I know that Rutgers and Syracuse have been in touch. Rutgers and the McCord camp. I mean, he is from New Jersey. I don't think that there's that much mutual interest. This thing's wide open, and Kyle is not going to make a decision immediately. Just talking to some people who know the family well and are close to that recruitment. He had to commit early to Ohio State, right? And like that happens with a lot of these top programs. You don't want to lose your spot, but now another position where people want him and yeah, he's going to go on some visits. Yeah, he's not going to make a knee-jerk decision. So yeah, after Kyle McCord, there's Cam Ward, right? The Washington State quarterback that everyone wants. I've been told that there's a chance he goes to Miami this weekend for a visit. Nebraska also flew out to Pullman yesterday to see him. A lot of people have linked Cam Ward to Ohio State. I confirmed last night that there's been no formal conversation between Ohio State and Cam Ward. That's another one too, where it's just going to be interesting to watch play out. And he's still evaluating the NFL. Like that is still very much possibility for him.
His game plays well in 2023 National Football League.
Yes. And then we already talked Dylan Gabriel, DJ Uyalungale. It's Florida State, it's Louisville, it's the NFL. I continue to hear more and more about him in Florida State. There hasn't been a visit scheduled just yet. Some sources have indicated, right, Tyler Shuck, the Texas Tech quarterback, committed to Louisville. There's been some indication though that Louisville might be open to taking 2 quarterbacks. So we'll just have to watch that one play out a little.
Okay.
Am I forgetting anyone?
Dante Moore.
Dante Moore, I confirmed earlier this week that Michigan and him have been in communication. On3, Chad Simmons also put Miami, Ohio State, Michigan, and there's a 4th one that's not coming to my mind just right now. But I think Oregon, yeah, duh.
Yeah, okay.
Oregon commit. Yeah. Just talking with some people who know Dante well, like being developed is really going to play a role in this decision, in the sense of he really flashed in moments at UCLA, and then he looked like a true freshman in some other moments. And I think there was a plan in place when he committed, and that it necessarily didn't come true the way they had agreed upon, from my understanding. So I think like going to Michigan and sitting behind JJ McCarthy, like they would definitely be okay with that. Like, I don't think, but I mean, so yeah, that's an option. I haven't really heard him linked to Ohio State too much, but Chad obviously reported that yesterday. And then a former Oregon commit. Like, I think bringing in Dante, if for some reason Dylan Gabriel doesn't work out, would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, the Michigan thing makes a lot of sense. Mainly just looking at the tea leaves for Bryce Underwood, and he could be headed to LSU. And if you're losing a guy that's from Belleville, from Michigan, just go get the guy that's also from Detroit and just bring him in. That might, lighten the sting there for Michigan. But also, I mean, Dante Moore's a good player. So it's not like you're just like, oh, he's a consolation prize. Like, he's a former 5-star plus recruit. So yeah, a lot of dominoes falling left and right with quarterbacks. So that's going to be fun to keep track. I do want to mention before I forget, Ole Miss, Kiffin might have already done it. Maybe an NIL opportunity there for Juice Wells, partner up with Juice Kiffin. Maybe something with Wild Rose Kennels. There you go, Juice.
Juice has a dog, actually. Not to like completely. He signed a dog with a dog food company like this past spring. So,
dude, the stars are aligning right there.
It's coming together.
Well, cool. But yeah, man, I appreciate the time. Again, I'm sure your phone's been blowing up. We'll have you on again soon. I mean, the window's closing here in the next 20 something days. Yeah. So we'll touch base afterwards, see what Ole Miss has done, see what else is looking like around the landscape of college football. But as Pete Nakos of On3, follow him on Twitter at Pete Nakos, then _. Don't forget the _. He's got all the NIL business, portal stuff. I mean, he is the guy to follow right now in season. So it's been fun this week. Appreciate the time, man. We'll do it again soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Zach.